And we have a developing story we want to deal with as well this evening. That is reports in the Globe and Mail that Andrew Scheer is a dual citizen, Canadian and U.S. And how significant is that? He's in the process of renouncing it, but we want to raise that now with our panel of party commentators. Let's discuss all of that with, from Toronto, Richard Mahoney is a Liberal commentator, and Semhar Tekeste is a Conservative commentator. And with me in our studio, Robin MacLachlan is an NDP commentator. Good to see you all. Thanks for being here. Semhar, let me start with you. We have this now about the Conservative leader, Andrew Scheer, holding dual citizenship. He's in the process of renouncing it. And how big of a deal is this?
Look, Andrew Scheer grew up in my city of Ottawa, in my neighborhood, let's say, in the South End, and he's as Ottawan, as Canadian as all of us. There are, thousands of Canadians who are dual citizens. Some of them are, American and Canadian and so on. I don't think it's a big deal. He's never renewed the passport that his father took out for him when he was a child, and he's in the process of renouncing his American citizenship. So Andrew Scheer is as Canadian as we are. He's a Canadian, and a Canadian. That's all that matters to me.
Richard Mahoney, Conservatives in the past have been pretty critical of Stéphane Dion over his dual French-Canadian citizenship. Tom Mulcair, the same thing. Is this a big deal or not?
Yeah, I was just going to, Peter, you're so right. I was just going to say two things. I don't think it's a big deal. And I agree with Semhar. Andrew Scheer grew up in Ottawa, went to Immaculata High School, all sorts of things, and then moved to Saskatchewan. As long as he didn't misrepresent the fact, as long as he didn't claim otherwise at some point, I think that what we should do is apply a different test to Mr. Scheer and the one that Conservatives applied to, as you said, Stéphane Dion and his then dual citizenship, French and Canadian. There was a big foo-for-all from the Conservatives about, I believe it was the former Governor General's.
Yeah, Michaëlle Jean. And I think Mr. Scheer was critical of her when she held both.
Yeah. So, but even though it's an election campaign, I guess I would say, at least speaking for myself personally, when those things happened, I was there saying, how ridiculous that was. As long as Mr. Scheer didn't misrepresent himself, pretend to be something he is not,
okay.
Then as long as he certainly has never shown any intent of becoming a U.S. resident, notwithstanding he's probably a big fan of Mr. Trump. I don't think we should make a big deal of it.
Robin, what are your thoughts on this?
No difference of opinion. This isn't a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal. It shouldn't have been a big deal for Stéphane Dion. It shouldn't have been a big deal for Tom Mulcair. My hope is that maybe now Conservatives can see that it shouldn't be a big deal, and we can all move past this the next time it comes up.
All right, let's stay with Mr. Scheer then, Semhar. Today, Andrew Scheer finally, after facing questions for weeks here, finally gave his personal opinion on where he is on the issue of abortion, saying that, look, his personal view is he's pro-life, but that won't affect the way he governs, and he's not reopening the abortion debate. I guess the question for a lot of people is, why has it taken him till now to answer this question? He didn't even do it last night in the debate when he had a chance to say then and there that this is my personal view, I'm pro-life, but he's decided to do it today, and so why so long?
You say finally, but Andrew Scheer's position on abortion has been clear, and he's been honest about it for a decade. Everyone knows that Andrew Scheer is pro-life. That being said, everyone also knows that the Conservative Party is committed to not reopening the abortion debate. And he reiterated that yesterday. He wanted to focus on the real issues that Canadians are interested in hearing from him on during the debate, and that's what he tried to answer the question and move on, but Justin Trudeau cannot run on his own record, so he continuously brought the issue up again and again. I'm happy that he said it again, but I didn't learn anything new
well, I guess when you say he's always been clear, I guess he's. I think everybody assumed he's pro-life, but he finally decided today that I'm going to use the words pro-life. And I guess, Richard, does that mean we move on from this as well with Andrew Scheer? Does that settle it?
Well, yes and no. I guess there's two issues here. One, in the hyper-political age we live in, it seems that Mr. Scheer and a lot of Conservatives have trouble admitting some things that you should just admit. This is really like the reverse of the issue that we were just talking about, dual citizenship. Mr. Scheer probably shouldn't have claimed to be an insurance broker if he wasn't a licensed insurance broker. Mr. Scheer, I agree with Semhar. I knew Mr. Scheer was pro-life. Mr. Scheer campaigned for the leadership of the Conservative Party on the grounds that he was pro-life. He promised to pro-life groups in that campaign that he would allow a free vote. The issue over, I think, the confusion on Mr. Scheer and the reason why he probably didn't come clean in the debate last night when he was pressed by the Bloc leader, Mr. Singh, Mr. Trudeau, and others, was because he doesn't want to give any fuel to the notion that he would allow a free vote on it. Now, admittedly, he said that the Conservatives won't bring it forward, but he has played a little game here, which is to sort of nudge and a wink. Don't worry, we'll say we won't reopen the thing, a la Mr. Harper's commitment. But when he was campaigning for the leadership of the Conservatives, that was only a year and a bit ago, he had a very different message. So I think it's right for Canadians to sort of wonder what the real deal is here.
Okay,
I certainly do.
Robin, does that change anything today? So Andrew Scheer has now said, okay, I'm pro-life. I'm not reopening the abortion debate. Should that settle the matter?
Well, there's a reason for the timing of this. I mean, Andrew Scheer got clobbered in the opening round of that French language debate on TVA last night, and he was getting clobbered for it because he did not have a clear answer. And one would think we're, 20-odd numbered days?
23.
23 days into this campaign, and it's only now that the Conservatives have decided how they're going to answer this question that they've known since Andrew Scheer became leader would be one of the most fiercest questions he would have to face, along with his position on same-sex marriage, something that took 7 days in early September for them to answer to, again, with an unclear question. I also take issue with the term pro-life. That term sounds positive and is being abused in the United States of America in many states to take away and roll back women's right to choose their health and choose rights over their own bodies. So no, he's anti-choice. He's against a fundamental part of our legal history in Canada that preserves the right for women to choose decisions about their health that should be made between them and their doctors. So he should have first of all, been forthright with this earlier on, and they wouldn't have had the awkward display they had last night on television in the first debate with the Prime Minister.
Semhar, let me get you to respond to that. I mean, if part of this issue here was to shore up support for Conservatives in Quebec, where this issue is an issue, do you think he's done it here? How does he reassure voters in Quebec and in other parts of the country that, yeah, my personal opinion is clearly separate from what I'm going to do if I win government?
Well, that's exactly what he did last night, and that's what he did this morning. Andrew Scheer has been very clear. The Conservative Party's been very clear. They won't reopen the debate. He reiterated that multiple times yesterday evening during the debate, and I think Quebecers and everyone who was watching last night can be reassured based on the comments that he made that the debate will not be reopened.
Yeah, can he say in the Conservative Party, can he send a message now saying it, and I won't tolerate any motions or private members' legislation coming from backbench MPs. That's how much I'm going to shut it down. It will not happen.
It's part of the Conservative Party's declaration. As leader of the Conservative Party, it is his job to ensure that doesn't happen. Richard alluded to Stephen Harper's record. Well, Stephen Harper said he wouldn't reopen the debate, and he didn't, and that's exactly what Andrew Scheer will do. Okay,
Richard, let me move on to another topic here. Carbon campaign planes. Let's talk about that. I think we all know Richard Mahoney. We know him around here, and Richard spends a lot of time on airplanes. Like a lot of time. I don't think you ever take two planes, do you, Richard? You just have the one plane. I don't think you need two. So what's the argument that you need two campaign planes if you're trying to be the climate champion?
Well, first of all, Mr. Trudeau and his campaign have made clear that the other plane is used for both the advance crew, which goes out ahead of the campaign and media crew, and for all the different props and setups and things that go into some of these very, very large events that he had. So they did this in 2015. They're doing it again in 2019. It's no big deal, number one. Number two, the whole idea of of the world's effort and Canada's effort to do something about climate change is that we need to either put a price on the pollution we make, or we have different systems and credits and things like that to offset the pollution we make. This is a movement that's going on in the world for many, many years. And through a very credible third-party source, the Liberal campaign, both this time and last time, has offset any emissions that those planes make in the campaign and otherwise through an accredited third-party source, which is actually reducing emissions, a company called Less Emissions.
Okay, Robin.
So that's the argument.
I can tell Richard's awkward having to answer this, and I would be too if I had been stumbled upon this for a party I was representing. It's important to note this. Yes, they did in 2015, and that's the only other time anybody's ever done this. There's never been a time when...
you don't know that.
Well, Bob Fife looked into this, and I understand that he said that there's no time that this has been done before. So if you can come out and show me another time when somebody needed another plane to carry their luggage, then I'd certainly be interested to look at that. But these planes are very large. They have large cargo storage areas, and every other leader is able to take all the equipment they need. Often advanced teams take economy flights or travel commercial.
But what if they don't? What if they do have more stuff and they think they need a second plane? But what you're saying is then
most of this equipment,
scale back in the name of the environment?
Well, no. First of all, foremost, it's how is it possibly necessary? Everybody that's done advanced know you can source AV equipment on every local place you can. Right. That's actually good for the local economies, and your team can travel by other means. So it does look quite hypocritical, and the problem is it's a pattern that fits the narrative that Justin Trudeau says one thing, but when it comes down to it, he doesn't walk the walk.
Richard, I'll come back to it. But Semhar, your leader raised this, and Mr. Trudeau then pointed out, yeah, but you're not buying carbon offsets. The Conservatives aren't buying carbon offsets for your plane.
That's right. And carbon offsets, look, there are three tenets to the 3 Rs. The first one is reduce. So Mr. Trudeau was on stage yesterday, lecturing us again about the virtues of climate change. And on the other hand, he is not abiding by the first tenet. Look, Stephen Harper ran a campaign in 2015, a campaign in 2011 with one plane. This is as Kardashian as it gets. You've got a plane for your luggage. How is that even acceptable? So I think this, like Robin said, this really fits the narrative of Trudeau's brand as far as I see it. He says he's a hypocrite. He does. It's more of a do as I say, not as I do. The rules don't apply to him, and he has a Kardashian plane for his luggage.
Richard, I mean, this. I think the party's buying offsets for. I think it's a Windsor landfill project. But I guess the point still remains. Is that okay? Is it okay if you can do whatever you use as many planes as you want as long as you're buying carbon offsets? Is that the right message?
Well, I mean, the reality is I really have trouble with what both my sort of friends on the panel here are saying. We're talking about a very serious issue here, climate change, and we're debating whether or not you need one or two planes. And the bottom line is they offset their emissions, number one. Number two, Mr. Trudeau is not only the Prime Minister and therefore probably runs a different style campaign than some of the other parties, and most notably the Democrats. He also has larger campaign events regularly. Mr. Scheer went into Brampton the other day and didn't pull 100 people. Mr. Trudeau is regularly doing events with thousands of people at them. So there are different requirements for that.
But he was the third place.
But you're not flying the people in. I mean, you're.
No, but he's flying the people in to advance those things. You guys know how campaigns work.
Yeah.
He's flying in the backdrops and the podiums and all the things that they use to make those events look the way they do on television for the rest of us to look.
All right.
So I think the campaign needs to do what the campaign needs to do. You got to offset your behavior and your environmental impact. That is what Mr. Trudeau said he was going to do. That is what he did.
Quick final word to you, Semhar, and Robin.
Carbon offsets are a scheme so that the wealthy can assuage their guilt about using carbon emissions, and that's exactly what Justin Trudeau is doing.
No, come on.
Look, carbon offsets have a place at certain moments in time. It's not to replace 40-odd days of traveling around the country when it's entirely unnecessary, and you can do it by other means. And in 2015, he was the third place candidate, and his campaign started off with not thousands of people, but they were still using two planes.
All right. Listen, thank you all three of you for your time tonight. Appreciate it, and we'll talk again. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.